Hi, my name is Laurent Barber, and welcome to Black Digital Media TV. Welcome back. We're excited today. We are welcoming a special guest that we have today. It is Patrick. Patrick is a guest that Gina definitely was very excited about bringing on. And Patrick is a poet, and we figured it was just very fitting to bring Patrick on and kind of lead into our first, discussion. And we just couldn't think of a better guest to bring on than Patrick and his background, and just really let him talk about how poets write in their craft. So, Gina?
Now, it said that words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. This is the quote that I got from Huffington Post when I was doing some research. It says, we can choose to use this force either constructively with words of encouragement or destructively with words of despair, because words have the energy and the power to help, to heal, to hinder, to humiliate, or to inspire. And that's exactly what our guest today is going to be doing with his poetry. You'll have a chance to hear probably 4 or 5 of his poems that he's going to read himself. So Patrick, welcome to Black Digital Media TV.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all, Mr. Barb and Miss Holst. Happy to be here. It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why don't we just jump right into it, right? They're here to hear Patrick speak. So let me just pull up one of the poems that I'd like to hear you speak. And this one is the line that I am commenting on is called "What's Your Life Worth? A slice of a piece of the pie." Can you recite that for us, that particular poem?
Yes, ma'am. See, we have here. Got to kind of go through stuff or whatever.
No worries. And while he's finding that particular one, it said, many people feel compelled to give voice to any passing feeling, thought, or impression or opinion that they might have without even giving any, real substance. But you'll hear through the poetry that Patrick is going to read, these are poems that he's written himself, and they're very, very powerful. And I think it was about just over a year ago when I don't even remember how we got connected, Patrick. I think you started following me on Instagram, and my first thought was, who's this guy? I have no idea who this person is. But then I started reading your poems, and I was like, wow. So when Laurent came to me with this idea, I said, Patrick has got to be the first one. And like you said, it is so apropos that you're coming on, just a couple of days after Amanda Gorman gave this awesome recitation at the inauguration. Right. So if you located that particular poem, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, I have it now. It says, starts off, it says, sometimes you could be driven with no drive, or risen without knowing how to rise. What's your life worth? A slice of the piece of the pie? Where did your mind go? What did the time show? Did the system blind your third eye? Are you dying to live, or are you just living to die? A portrait of a lost soul. Or did you find comfort in believing everything your conscience knew to be a fable, like Satan's claws, or kissing under a mistletoe? What's hue? What's man? What's human? What's old? What's new? What's the word that you spelled that put you under its spell, that made you react and be its description on cue? What dimension has you? What state are you in? What dominion has you inferior to it? You can't fight the overpowering power, so you resort to being a part of every destructive nature it influences. Where are we? Who are we? Which way is up or down? Direction seems directionless when the arrow point does nothing but constantly spin around. No senses becoming senseless. No home to know what home is. No kingdom to see what a real throne is. You're trapped. Think about it.
Nice.
I'm curious to know what was happening when you wrote this. Because one of the things that struck me was you mentioned about our third eye being blinded. That immediately caught my attention. And it's basically, and it's so true, because a lot of people today, their intuition is just basically shut down. You know,
Right.
nobody really operates on intuition. So I just love to know, and I'm sure Laurent is curious as to what was
Yeah.
happening at the time in your life that
Um,
influenced this particular one.
I can say this. When you hear a lot of conversation from different people, and you get on television and you hear stuff, and you get on you actually get on any kind of social media platform and hear stuff or whatever. You hear conversations as far as like what I what I have, I'm talking about. You also hear conversations as far as like, like I don't need nobody or anything like that right there. So it's like an awakening that's a that's like for a sleeping factor, basically. And so what it was just all a part of just me, me like expressing that with conversations, like from different people. Like people write, like people write my stuff without them even knowing it. Whether good, whether bad, whether whatever. They write my stuff without even knowing it. So that's pretty much like where I got that from. And actually I didn't even write it down. I wrote it on the spot on my page. you know. So we as far as the third eye, that's like your most spiritual eye. Like, we think with, people tried to say, like the society tried to say, okay, we think, and society scientists, I call it. They tried to say that we think we're only 10% of our brains, right? But how can we think we're only 10% of our brains if we made from a creator?
Mm-hmm.
So in programming, we think we're 10% of our brains because I mean, when you think about it, um, everybody knows about slavery. Everybody knows about the great theft. You know what I mean? Northeast, Egypt, all over Africa, even here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they program, when they only put 10% of our brain thinking because we couldn't, they forbid us to read and write because our truth was what they were writing, but they wanted to hide it. So of course, your third eye is spiritual. Like, that's your spiritual sense to see beyond the 10%, I'm talking about point of thinking, a rim of thinking, you know.
So
And so like that.
I want to make sure people know where to find you. Can we pop you're on Instagram predominantly, right? Can
Right.
you just say what your Instagram handler is, because it's a really interesting one, just so
It's
people can
Black
find you.
Ghost.
Because I'm sure that they're curious. So they're hearing you recite your poems. They're like, well, where's this
Yeah.
guy? Who's this guy? So just
Okay.
and Ron, if you can just pop it into, because it doesn't look like I can actually type in the chat right here. So if you can just
Okay.
pop that in the comments.
Okay. Actually I can just say it out right now. It's Black
Mhm.
Ghost 999935.
So if you're looking for Patrick on Instagram, that's his IG handle.
You said it was Black Ghost.
It's 999935.
9929, right?
99. Yeah,
Four
yeah, four
nines
nines
and
and then
35.
35.
35. Okay, at what?
No, that's it. Just that's what
That's it.
they look for on Instagram. They just
Yeah,
pop if they just go into Instagram and then they'll just type in Black Ghost 999935. They'll find Patrick.
Okay.
Now, Patrick,
Is that correct? Right there?
yes, it is.
Okay.
That's good. All right. So, do you have a book or anything coming out soon?
I'm working on it right now. I'm not. I don't have like the time frame, the exact time frame when it'll be out, but I'm definitely working on it right now. Moreover, what I'm doing is pretty much like self-education. Like reaching everybody who I can reach. You know what I mean? And that's more so what I'm doing right now. More
Right,
so
because
what
that's
I'm
one of
doing.
the things. That's one of the things that I've mentioned to you
That,
quite a bit. Is
that,
where's this book? Because I know a lot of people are going to want. So whenever that book is ready,
oh yeah, I will be right
let
here.
us know, right?
I'll be right here. I'll be right here. I'll be right here to deliver it.
All right.
I'll be right here to
How
deliver it.
how about another poem?
Okay.
I surround my spirit with the awakening of my universe, knowing the harmonious strands of the song of who I am. There's just something about the way you write, and it just captured me. So that particular one starts off with, I put my best foot forward to step into new light.
Oh, Gina, you know what? They have to go on my page because I wrote that straight on my page. Like when I
Or you
write,
wrote it directly onto. Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and read it
Okay, you can
because
read it.
I'll try to read as much as I have on here. I
Right.
put my best foot forward to step into new light, and I hope I do this justice. With my worst foot next to stand in balance to bring the best of true sight. I set my great mind in a dimension where it can never be touched. Position my hands to receive and give right back by nature the lineage of what is and what was. My cup runneth over my cup. I place my soul in the dwellings of an eternal solemn, my heart being the secret place. The new covenant brings forth my new gospel. I surround my spirit with the awakening of my universe, knowing the harmonious strands of the song of whom I am, the heaven in the kingdom of the sea, realizing my flesh is the earth in which I walk on. My blood is the lifeline and water. My words are the well that you draw from to understand the grace of life's transcendency.
Mm, that
Wow.
was deep. I gotta say that was deep too.
You was
Like,
digging pretty deep
Yeah,
there.
this is your poem, and you're saying, "Oh, this is deep."
Good to
now,
hear
like to
that,
hear
right?
somebody else like recite it, like to hear somebody else recite it, you know, because I only write it or whatever. I just okay, and I go somewhere else and do something else. But like to
See,
hear
and
somebody like actually recite it,
we need to talk about this because I think Laron and I were talking about this recently about
mm,
how writers or even like rappers tend to just something happens and they're just able to write and all of this
mm,
stuff just flows. So can you just talk about that for a little bit? LeBron, please
yeah,
jump in because I seem like I'm doing all the talking.
Oh, you're doing good. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm right with you.
yeah, like you know, like it's pretty much like that's the highest form of mathematics. You know, which I've said before, it's the highest form of mathematics. Uh, thing is, or whatever, like we have so much in our heads that we're trying to get out. And if,
Mhm.
like, I can speak for myself. I have a lot of questions about everything. You know what I mean? About my being, about, you know, the universe, about my universe. I have a lot of questions. So like a lot of times, like, you know, when I'm writing, I answer my own question, you know, like, and it's a trip. But at the same time too, like you gotta, you know, like I say, like I can give like a real history of this stuff. Um, we were already, you know, we were already spiritual beings. You know what I mean? Because I mean, like, you know, we don't, you know, a lot of us like a lot of us actually like think that okay, well, like God sits up high. No, he's sitting right here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So of course, like with that, he gave you a creative wisdom, like to speak, you know, like him speaking through you. He gave you the mind to speak through you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you know, you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of information, the right knowledge or the wrong knowledge. But you try to figure out, you know, like the intertwinement of it and try to unravel it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's when, you know, the highest form of mathematics comes out. Like you know, when you speak your spirit, you know what I mean? A lot of people can speak their mind, but they can't speak their spirit.
Hmm.
Right.
You know, you know.
That's a
And so like,
powerful statement. Yeah. Yes, and we're all creative beings. We were designed as creative people. Right. But
yes,
I've heard
you are.
so many people, you know, that I used to teach, well, I'm an art teacher, right?
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of kids that'll come up to me saying, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. But then by the end of the class period, they're like, wow, I didn't know I had it in me. And the
Right.
same thing with adults. I've heard adults say, and there's a quote by Pablo Picasso saying, every child is an artist. The problem is remembering that when you grow up. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. Adults, you'll hear a lot of them say, well, I can't paint, or I can't draw, and I can't do this. And it's because, number one, they've kind of forgotten that they are
They're
a
artists.
creative people.
Yeah.
And everybody,
Yeah.
every single one of us was created by the ultimate artist. And if
Exactly.
you're created in his image, that would make all of us creative people as well.
Exactly. But you know, some people forget, like sometimes it's a thing, well, every time. And some, you know, some just might remember it and try to you know, like perfect the skill. But really, it's kind of our fault, you know what I mean? Like kind of like a parent's fault, because I mean, you know, as an infant, the baby can't talk. You know what I mean? So of course you can't wait till they get probably about one and say the first word. Oh, he said his first word, but never realizing that in the infant state, that like he or she was the most innocent. You know what I mean? The most pure, the most innocent, and was really speaking the language of God anyway at that state. So now as we grow, circumstances happen, this and this and that. We forget about that state. Some of, you know, a lot of us do. You know what I mean? So that's when we have to like reach back into ourselves or whatever and find that state again. You know?
So
You
Patrick,
know?
let me just kind of ask you this question in terms of, like I said, me, I'm in the computer, so I'm always thinking about, reading tech stuff and books and
Right.
conversation. What's the mind of a poet? How do they think on a day-to-day basis? What do you think a person that's really committed to poetry as yourself? What what
Um,
what goes through your head? How does it flow? I mean, I know you kind of see things around the world, what's happening on the day to day, and it kind of
mhm,
comes to you. But like I said, I like to read stuff. Is that what
mhm,
you do? Do you like to read different things? You listen to different certain kind of music? How does
mhm.
that how does that mind stay together for your craft of writing poetry?
um, just when you can see like a when you walk outside or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Walk outside your door and you can see like a flower or like a leaf coming off a branch, right? Now, you know, a lot of us would think that okay, well it's just a leaf falling off a branch. You know what I mean? But with the mind of that, you're looking at what's the force that's making that leaf fall off that branch? Why did it fall off that branch? You know what I mean? Matter of fact, what branch did it come from? How old is that branch? How old is the tree? You know what I mean? How does it fall? And does it, how does it fall? How is it able to like actually sustain, any kind of weather when it does fall? And like that's the, that's the brain of it all. You know what I mean? Like some people would say that that's like, okay, that's like a little bit too much right there, man. But actually, whatever, you want to know that because that's your universe that you're in. And like at the same time, too, it teaches you something right there at the same time, too. You come from a tree, you branch out in the branches that turn, that grow leaves or whatever. So of course, like, when the leaves fall, that means you shed, that means like, you shedding off, I'm talking about this particular thing to make the tree and the branch grow again. You know what I mean? Like that's the way it's looked at. I mean, that's the way I think. you
I
know?
agree with you because a couple years ago, I actually wrote an article about lessons that I've learned from trees, and that's one of the things
Right.
is that at certain times of the year, trees are always shedding their leaves because they're getting rid of things that they don't really need anymore.
Right.
And that's
And
the
so are
same way
we.
with humans. We always shed skin that we don't
Right.
kind of sloughs off, but we also need to be shedding certain mindsets at different times of our
Right.
life as well. So
Exactly.
we can learn a
Exactly.
lot from, and that's why I said that people always feel like we're so disconnected from nature, but we are a part
But like we
of,
are nature.
we can learn so much from nature.
Right. I
Yeah,
mean, at the same
I'm a
time.
I'm a tree a fanatic. I live in Tampa with my sister, and there's some amazing, beautiful trees here. And I've
Right.
always,
Right.
did you see that tree? Just look at it, and it's just the way that the
Right.
branches may form. The trees have character, but I
Oh yeah.
just love the lessons that you can learn from nature.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Because I mean, like look, like you look at it too, or whatever. Think about the four seasons. Think about the four. I mean, the four seasons which they've given us. Uh, uh, like you look at the root of a tree, and like you can apply this like to your everyday life. Um, like in the fall, autumn, leaves fall. or whatever.
Mhm.
Branches may kind of go or whatever, but like all the leaves fall. You know what I'm talking about? That's autumn. Winter, no leaves on the tree, but the tree is still standing in its root, deeply rooted. Spring, you know what I'm talking about? You know, like they reflourish. You know what I mean? Summer,
Mhm.
it replenishes back to a full live, tree. But the thing is, like, it's still deeply rooted. Nothing stunted that tree. I don't care how many branches went off. I don't care how many leaves had fell off or whatever. Nothing stunted that tree. That tree is still there. So like really, if you have a foundation, you know what I mean, like a deep rooted foundation within your creator, you know what I mean? It don't matter what goes on, summer, winter, spring, fall, you still have things can fall off, but you're still standing there with no swaying, you know,
Absolutely.
you
Mhm.
know. So I mean, it's like a real life application.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For your personal self, be like a tree. When problems come or whatever, you still stand deeply rooted. Stuff may happen, but you still stand deeply rooted.
Yeah.
You know,
I
if
mean,
your
that's
foundation.
all in the Bible. Be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All right. I'm gonna
yeah.
find one more of your poems that I'd love to hear you speak about. This one
Okay.
is, how does it feel when you're facing the hatred?
Mm. Hmm. How does it feel when you're facing the hatred? Wow.
That's the very first line of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's how does it feel when you're facing the hatred and sacrifice when nothing is saving a nation? One step from pacing, no time is not wasting. Demons in conversation, taking me to a slave ship. I've been running for too long to come back. The prodigal son, the verse of spiritual combat. But even though the times are so wrong, my faith is so strong. I'm sick and tired with every breath I hold on. I'm praying for serenity, pray for peace. I pray for love. I pray for life. I'm praying for identity in days we see. I pray for y'all, but save a prayer for me. When loved ones die, know their spirit is present. But I'm walking the earth trying to get it together. When the hope is gone, it's another endeavor. And the voice is telling me, you better be careful. Save me from the ways I've been pillaged. Save me. I'm one of your children. Save me. Because I don't want to go back to the place where I came from, living in prison. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I won't complain. I'm no more bound. I'm walking to the songs of disciples, hoping my generation will listen before they put in the ground.
Hmm.
I have to say, when you hear poetry like that, it's like at some point, it's like you just kind of get lost into the words. Is wherever your head is in your space, it's like
Mhm.
I just get lost into that. And I'm
Oh,
just trying
wow.
to find my way around what you're speaking to. But
Right,
for
right.
you, I mean, is this like a constant thing that just goes through your head all the time? If okay, let me put the question this way.
Okay.
If you, me, and Gina, if we were
Mhm.
like walking through the forest, right, Patrick?
Mhm.
And we would all be noticing the trees, the beautiful things. And if at some point we were all just quiet and just walking
Mhm.
through, what would be going through your head?
Is any animal gonna get us? No. Do we have a shotgun? No.
Okay, we've been in a safe
No.
park.
No,
Yeah,
but
we're in a
what?
safe place. Safe
Actually,
place.
actually, what would actually go through? I would be thinking about like the sound, like the life in that forest, whether it be dark or light. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
always something to where we going through here trying to find a path or whatever. We're exploring it, we're quiet. You know what I mean? My spirit may be talking, and the forest spirit may be connected at the same time with it. You know what I mean? So like it's no telling, what would actually come to my mind, because I mean, there's so much life in there. You know what I mean? And like so much life and death up in there. Like I'll say that. And I don't mean death as far as like land on the casket. I mean death as far as a rebirth. You know what I mean? Because like
Mhm.
it's so much of it. So like it'll be no telling what I'll be thinking about, because I mean my spirit would actually connect with the spirit of the forest. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same time, like, you know, we might be like both of y'all may think something at the same time too. Because I mean, you know, when fear isn't a factor anymore and you appreciating, you know, the silence and hearing the actual, you know, hearing actual nature, you know what I
Right.
mean? Your spirit
Yes.
goes another height. It goes another height, you know?
Mhm.
So like there's no fear factor with it. It's just your spirit is connecting with the spirit of the universe, you know,
Right.
in that forward. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, because you was just going as you were going through that poetry, you were talking about, being a slave,
Mm-hmm.
love, being in prison, grace,
Mm-hmm.
just making all those things flow, man. It's like, and then you just put that all together, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's back cause like basically it's like a cry for help.
Mm.
Cry for help. Um we've been in the solitary, you know, our minds have been in the solitary confinement. You know, we think, you know, these days that you know, oh well, you know, nothing controls me, this and that, or oh, that's going on, oh, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I mean, from the beginning of our time, matter of fact, of time, you know what I mean? We forgot what type of wisdom that we actually had. We forgot that we built everything. We forgot that we had the first civilization. You know what I mean? So it's been a like ever since the European expansion, it's been a disconnect. You know what I mean? It's been a great disconnect. And of course, like, you know, like I said before, whatever, you know, it like believe it or not, people, there was a time when it was a crime for you to read and write. The
Mhm.
reason why, like it was a crime for you to read and write, it was a crime for you to actually like speak almost.
Yes, yes.
Reason why is because they put this program in all of these books and it lets you know who you were and what your destiny was. You know what I mean? But at the same time, too, you couldn't read it because I mean, it's like, you know, what's the best place to hide their destiny? In a book. We're gonna forbid them to read it, and we're gonna forbid them to write. So like that way, we can control the mass of them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like that way, their thinking is more of a program and not a free thinking. You
Right.
know? It's a
There's a
trip.
comment. Someone posted, Eric Lewis. You should hear his music. Do you write
Yeah,
music?
I write music also. Write music.
Huh,
I don't like
so
to
so we're gonna have you on for another episode where you share some your music with us.
Oh yeah, no
See, I
doubt
didn't
about it.
know that about you. I've just
Yeah.
been fascinated by your poetry over the last year or so.
Yeah. I
Huh,
mean the
but
way the way I write music or whatever, like of course it's different. Um um I may go into like a lot of things around, you know, do it the same way. People tell my story. I mean, I tell people stories or whatever. And sometimes I put a corporation in mind, but I keep in mind that I have to be conscious, you know, of everything. So it's harder for me to write music because I'm going so deep into something. So with poetry, you know what I mean? Like I just go. I just okay, yeah. All right. You know what I mean? Like whatever's coming to my mind. Okay, no, wait a minute, I gotta put that down. Okay, here we go. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
and it might be like all over the place to my idea. I don't know. It may be all over the place, but at the same time too, like it always comes together. Like it's just me asking questions
Yeah.
and trying to get answers. And a lot of
Mhm.
times I answer my own questions within
Mm.
that, you
Mm.
know. So yeah, but yeah, y'all have some pretty good music or whatever. It's
All right.
okay.
That'll be episode 2 with Patrick, right?
No doubt about it.
With your music.
Uh,
All right.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Three, four, and five.
So here's another poem that caught my attention.
Mm,
Um, I think this is the last one. Chasing a lullaby. The
mm.
streets can sing a song of despair where lost prophets orchestrate the symphonies of its layers. Do you have one there? Have that one there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd like to hear you.
Okay. It's starts off. It says chasing a lullaby. The streets can sing a song of despair where lost prophets orchestrate the symphonies of its layers. The ballad of the brokenhearted, shattered dreams of your peers, where gunshots ring in harmony, the cries for a prayer. Journey the soul of a lonely man. He spent his nights under bridges, never sleeping, and eating from different garbage cans, stretching out his hands to beg for forgiveness until the soul couldn't take it no more. Imagine his sickness, grief upon grievance from the stories he told, with the wisdom in his words so defiant, simply composed. He suffered from an addiction, labeled the scum of society, realizing I'm no different. His same reflection resides in me. Chivalry is more than intimate sayings from his true language, adhering to the soul. Time travels, so we embrace it. A silence over his face as he wistfully went away, drawing closer to his spirit. I softly began to pray. Um, I'm gonna say this. It was about a guy, homeless guy that I knew, that I befriended when I was living in Jersey for a little period. Of course, I was doing what I was doing. Just we're not gonna get into that, but I would always sit on the corner with him. Like he would like I don't know why this guy sought me out. Like he just saw me whatever. Like we just started talking, and so like every day, I mean, I would like sit down and talk to him. I'm like and let me tell you, this guy was like very wise, very wise. You know what I mean? And so he called me his little brother. You know what I mean? And so like as I, of course, as I'm watching him, maybe sometimes they leave, I keep my eye on him or whatever. And the thing that, well, actually, of course, like when I moved back to Texas or whatever, like, I would call, like he would call me every Wednesday from a payphone. You know what I mean? Gave my number. I made sure I kept that number so he can call me. Every Wednesday he called me from the payphone. You know what? What amazed me, I'm stressing because I'm like, man, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. He called me, had his on the way. Yeah, man, I'm finna go to the shelter, man. I'm finna give me something to eat. And look, they got the library over too, but just happy. You know what I mean? Of course, he passed away. His family had actually found me, like found my number, you know what I mean, let me know. But great guy. But of course, this is what I wrote about him. You know what I mean? Wrote this about it. And I would notice like every time, and he was like, he would just walk around. He's like, Lord, forgive me, forgive me. I'm like, what you asking forgiveness for, man? Like, you good? No, you don't know. Forgive me. I should have never did this in my early years. I should have never did that. He was preparing himself actually like to go to his next assignment. Because I mean, as we know, I know we've been taught that, okay, well, when we leave this earth, we go to heaven. You know what I'm talking about? But thing is, or whatever, if you notice, you go to your next assignment because your soul and your spirit never dies, only your flesh. You know what I mean? So I think he was like, trying to go to his next assignment, in good standing with the spirit and the soul. You know what I mean? So I had to write this about it. You know what I mean? And I wrote about the area that I was in. It starts off, it says, chasing a lullaby. The streets can sing a song of despair. Many don't know who've been in the streets, who've been, in the street games or whatever, man. You're chasing a lullaby. Because I mean, it was said like, okay, we do this, you won't get money, everything will be good. But the consequences are so different, So you could be up one day and be lying in the casket the next. So you're chasing a lullaby with this type of thinking. You know what I mean? Wow. Yeah.
Well, I for one, I'm really glad that you came on because I've written on the power of words several times. I've done one or two podcasts on that very topic, because to me, there's just so much that can be said. I give you a little backstory. When I was in high school, I used to write a lot. And I had these two teachers, Mr. Bromfield and Mr. Smith. Mr. Bromfield, I think I was in fourth and fifth form. And Mr. Smith, I was in sixth form, which is equivalent to like 12th grade over here, right? So it's a slightly different way that it's done in the British system when I was in school. Okay. And I remember having these two English literature teachers. And I loved writing, but they would always say, especially Mr. Smith would always say, I can't see the wood for the trees, because I would just put so much into it. But when I listen to your poems, there's just so much that's said with so few words, and that's one of the things. I studied Shakespeare when I was in high school. I love Shakespeare. A lot of people, in the British system, that's one of
right.
Yeah, she said she was studying Shakespeare, huh? So
the authors that you study. And
Mm,
I remember this one section from Hamlet, because Hamlet is my all-time favorite Shakespeare play.
mm,
And this
mhm.
particular one, this particular scene was Hamlet is basically saying, "It is now the very witching time of night, and when churchyards yawn and hell itself breathes out contagion to the world, now could I drink hot blood and do such bitter business," and it goes on and on and on.
Mhm.
And when I was studying English literature, a
Mhm.
few of the things that were pointed out, because we dug deep into Shakespeare and the
Okay.
way that he wrote, the way that he used different techniques. And
Okay.
alliteration was one of the things, and then the imagery. I mean,
Mhm.
when that particular one that I just said, the imagery is what stuck out to me. You know, can
Mm.
you imagine a churchyard yawning? That scene right there,
Yeah.
it was just whenever I read that particular, and that's why I've never forgotten it. I mean, I was in high school. I was back in 85 when I graduated high school, 86,
Okay.
87 for sixth form.
Mm.
I have never forgotten that passage, and it was all because of the imagery that,
Right.
that particular scene
Oh,
conjured up.
right.
And that's the reason why I love Shakespeare. And that's the
Right.
reason why I was so drawn to your writing, because you can't just read your writing, Patrick. We get pulled into it because of the
Right.
way that you write. And
Right.
that was
Right.
the same way with Miss Gorman when she was reciting her poem. I could
Mhm.
visually like imagine everything that she was saying. And
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, you
poets
did a
just
great
have.
job. You did a great job. I like you, but I never read like like of course I took like English lit in high school and college or whatever, but I could never understand it. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Um, like like some of the writers, I could never understand them. You
mhm.
know what I mean? I'm like they put it in front like what is this? You know what I'm talking about? So,
I love Shakespeare personally, and we studied Shakespeare, and we had
mhm.
to study Geoffrey Chaucer, and Geoffrey
Okay.
Chaucer was medieval English. So can you imagine sitting there and trying? Number one, you had to interpret what he was saying, and I think there was a couple passages that we had to memorize. No,
Mhm.
that I've completely forgotten, but I've learned to appreciate the English language simply by studying people like Chaucer and
Mhm.
Shakespeare. And
Yeah.
then just all of the different poetry I've read over the years as well. Just
Mhm.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I
So
feel
I,
like
I knew
what
I
some of
had
them give a depiction
to get
of
you
their
on here.
time.
What was
Yeah.
that?
What some of them give a depiction of their times. And like like you listen to like you read Langston Hughes, you know what I mean? He say he said he'd rather be a lamppost in Harlem than to be a governor in Georgia. That was deep.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
was deep. I
you
mean,
said so much in just those few words.
yeah, yeah.
And that
That
was
was
that
deep.
was
I
something I
mean,
had to learn. It took me a while, but it was because that was
yeah,
what my teacher meant was I can't see the wood for the trees because you're trying to say so much, or you're just trying to say the
yeah,
same thing. You're using too many words. You got to get rid of some of the
right,
words.
right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time too, like when you think about it, um, a lot of things are said like in the most simplest of words. Like even like whenever we have like wisdom. When people think of wisdom, they think of all this like this whole big, this big thing. Oh no, you can't even get to it. But wisdom is so simple. You know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about? Thinking is complicated, but wisdom is very simple. You know what I mean? But like it's hard to actually like gain, you know, the ladder to get to it, even though it's so simple. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's just like with writing or doing anything. You know what I mean? You can have the most simplest stuff, man, and like it can be so powerful. You know?
You,
Mhm.
What
you
what
know,
what what, what you say, Lauren?
no, go ahead. Go. I'm not going to cut you off. Go ahead. You can finish your
Oh,
thought. Yeah.
it's just like with Martin Luther King. Now, let me tell you how it is. I don't like the way that they boxing me with this speech. There's another speech that I really, really resonated with. But when he spoke, I have a dream. Like, do you know how many, like, do you know how powerful I have a dream was? I mean, not the speech, but just him having a dream. You know what I mean? That was like powerful as I don't know what, he became the most hated man like he was like the most dangerous man in the US for saying, a black man, I have a dream. That was powerful, you know. But the speech, I tell everybody else on here too, that may be viewing, the speech to really watch is like his 1967 speech in New York. You know what I mean? That's the real one, you know. But, like I say, few words can be so powerful. You know what I mean? Really can.
I'm checking out some of the comments that are. I'm not sure if you're able to see the comments.
I don't know.
Eric Lewis says, "I still don't think the world is ready to step back and take a deep dive into it, but they should." And Dr. Nice Flow, I think that's what says, Eric Lewis, you are right. They really should. So, right, the world may not be ready, but you know what? Ready or not, here comes Patrick with his new book. In whether it's a few months or another year or so, I'm sure that everybody is going to want to hear more of your poetry, because it's one of the things that I was intrigued. Like I said earlier, when I saw, I had this new follower on Instagram, I was like, who's Patrick? I don't know this person. But then when I started reading your work, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, and like the reason why I followed you, Miss Gina, because like I saw like like the stuff you put on like a lot of positive healing sayings or whatever. Same time I saw your art, I'm like, man, I'm like, wow, you know what I'm talking about. And so of course, like I think on one portion, like you was saying something about your story, you wrote about your story. You know what I mean? Like a part of it about this and this and that. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I can, man, let me follow her, man. You know what I mean? But never knew, like, you never know who you meet. You know what I'm talking about? That you can connect with, like on a very spiritual level. You never know. And so like that's what happened. With you and I, that's what happened.
Right.
I
So for
appreciate
you, it's words. You use words. I use a paintbrush and some paint, right?
Exactly.
And so I paint something visual, whereas you paint a picture that I can literally see it in my mind whenever whenever I'm reading your work. I can picture it in my mind because I am that visual person. But yeah, I really, a collaboration. I'd love to be able to collaborate with you in the future.
Do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we need to do that. I mean, most definitely. We can most definitely do that. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Good.
Yeah, for those of you who might be listening, the story that Patrick referred to, and when I'm talking about my story, is I several years ago I was diagnosed with lupus, so I've basically gone from being, I think I've had maybe 2 or 3 near-death experiences, and art was a huge part of my healing protocol. So there was a time when I literally poured myself into just painting, and that was, for me, painting is very healing. Creating is very, very healing. And I went through, I think, 101 paintings. I think it was 101 that I created in about 3 months, plus a week. So that's what he's referring to. So all of the work that I think that's when we first connected, was when I was going through and I was always like posting some image on there about so healing through art, or art therapy, was a huge part of my particular background when it came to so for some people like Patrick, it's words, and for me it's using a paintbrush and some paint.
Right.
So that's the story that he was referring to.
Exactly. And like that's that was so wonderful to me right there, because I'm like, you come across a lot of people, man, and like they the stories that they have. Like I say, like I'm the voice for the people that ain't got no voice. You know what I'm talking about? I'm that voice. You know what I mean? Like I'm that voice. So, that's like that's therapy within itself. You know what I mean? For you and for you to touch other people. That's therapy within itself. You know, very much so.
I have to say, like I said, I'm the computer guy, but it's just fascinating to be a part of this conversation because I know Gina's an artist, and that's part of how her and I connected before.
Right,
And she's a writer,
right.
and so we worked on some programs together where I needed her, and what did we do, like a digital arts program or something? Gina, is that what
Mhm.
it was? So I did
Yeah.
the technical piece, she did the art piece, and so that's how we came together. But
Okay.
to me, I think what was the word you used before, Patrick? I think you called it. You said like a cello. And you remember when you
Yeah,
mentioned that word, a
yeah,
cello?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
You remember what you was speaking of when? But I saw that word when it comes to poetry. What were we speaking about? You remember that part when we was talking about
We was
the
we
cello?
were speaking about like I think we were speaking about like God's language.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like we was talking about like the DNA, like you know how DNA
Yeah.
looks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything. So like yeah, it looked like a harmonic string, like a cello. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Real good. And I thought it was just very fitting
Hmm.
after Amanda did her poem, and I
Hmm.
just felt real good. I'm like, man, what a segue in to our
Hmm.
show from her
Yeah.
poem,
Hmm.
and then just having you on at the same time too.
Oh
But
yeah.
when you guys are ready, definitely, I'd like to have a chance or an opportunity. Gina, are we ready to cut to her and then let Patrick speak to that, or what do you want to do?
Oh, absolutely. But one of the things I wanted to mention first, I had made some notes, talking about
Okay.
the power of words in the, and I know that this would resonate with you, Patrick, and certainly
Mhm.
Laron. In the Bible, it starts out saying, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So from inception, we know that there's power in the words that we speak, right? And
Mhm.
it's not, a lot of people don't really realize that. They go through their day and they say certain things, especially, and for me, being a woman and hearing a woman talk badly about herself bothers me because they don't realize, the words that you speak, you're not just speaking them, they're vibrating within your own body. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things, when you hear words, whether
Mhm.
somebody speaks it to you or you speaking it to yourself, those
Mhm.
words vibrate within your body and they can become who you are.
Mhm.
So words are very, very powerful things. And this is why the poem that Amanda spoke at the inauguration, a lot of
Mhm.
people could really resonate with it because they could feel it within themselves,
Right.
especially if they were, African American, Black American, whatever the case is, right? They could
Right.
really feel the words that she was speaking,
Right. Well,
right?
let me say something about that. When we can, we look at words, right? And the reason why they're so powerful. We got to think back and look back. We wrote, we wrote in like, we wrote in picture form. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reason why the words are so powerful and sometimes, like a double-edged sword is because they're characters. You know what I mean? And they're
Mm-hmm.
characters that form, like words, that form sentences. So, you know, of course, a lot of times, like you could put a curse, like it's a curse, like go spell or spell a word. That's a spell already. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, we gotta kind of like be careful because not just with saying certain words, but actually knowing, like, like what this really is. You know what I mean? And a lot of people
Right.
not, a lot of people not really awakened on this. And I mean, it's fine, but do your research on it. Like we spoken characters. We spoken pictures. You know what I mean? Spoken
Yeah.
pictures, spoken symbols. You know what I mean? The characterizations of words or whatever, they came about during the, like during like maybe like the 16th century. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that old. And then at the same time, too, like this language that we speak right now is not that old. It's like about 800 years old. So, we gotta really be careful. And like the reason why they say that these characters that form into words and form into sentences speak life is because y'all got a spell on you already. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just like it's just like this right here. We always say this: either we young or we old. If we'd have never knew what old was, we wouldn't even think it. We wouldn't think it, nor we act like we were. If we didn't ever know what young was, what I'm talking about, oh, I'm sick. If we didn't even know that, if we didn't know that word right there, we
Right.
wouldn't even think it. You know what I mean? We
Right.
wouldn't even act like it. you know.
Mhm.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's a
Yep, that's
double-edged
what
sword.
I agree with you. That's one of the words I keep telling the people in the lupus community where,
Mm-hmm.
the people I work with is
Mm-hmm.
you have to speak differently to your body if you plan on getting well. You
Yeah,
can't
you
keep
really
telling
do.
yourself, well, I am this or I
Yeah,
have this particular disease, because when
right.
the moment you say have is like you're taking ownership of it. Or the
Exactly.
moment you say I am and you put a word behind it, you're basically telling yourself that that's what you're supposed to become. Right.
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
mentioned earlier about spelling. When we start to spell certain words, that word's
Mm-hmm.
spelling is where, for lack of a better way of putting this, when you talk about casting a spell,
Right.
that is where that originally came from. It's from
Exactly.
spelling out a word.
That's the
And a
spell.
lot of
Yeah.
people don't
Exactly.
really make
Yeah.
that connection with that. But yeah,
Right.
just the words that we use for ourselves, especially the words that follow I am or I
Mm-hmm.
have, those words,
Mm-hmm. Or
but
I will.
exactly,
Or I
you
will
gotta
be.
be very careful what
Something.
words you put behind those, because you're literally helping to create your future by the words that you put
Exactly.
behind. So
Like really your future and your destiny at the same time. Future and the destiny at the same time. Because I mean, like I say, like it's just so much that we have to actually like get back to or find out. You know what I mean? So where you like it's for like prospering. Like I say, just like you were saying, like whenever you're not, never not, you're not well. You know what I'm talking about? You know it.
mhm,
So sometimes like even humming can bring you right back to like bring
mhm,
you right because I mean you humming and you meditating at the same time too. You
yeah,
know what I mean? You know. So yeah, man, it's we really have to wait like get people awakened, on that kind of stuff. You know. You
I
know.
agree. Mhm. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the poem that Amanda Gorman
Mhm.
recited on the inauguration. I know LeRon wanted to bring.
Yeah, let's cue it up, and then we'll let you guys speak to it. Okay.
Okay.
And this is by PBS. And we'll put all the copyrights, everything in the comments as well too.
No doubt.
Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. Is the promised glade, the hill we climb if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
No, remember we were talking earlier about when I was in high school and the way that we were, basically the way that I was taught to study Shakespeare and Chaucer, and there were certain techniques that were used. I mentioned things like alliteration, using puns, and that's the first poem actually that I ever read by you, Patrick. I think was the one where you kind of played on the words prayed. When you prayed, Preyed, then
Yeah.
I prayed, Prayed. I wish I had that one right here with me, because that was the first one that actually caught my attention. But those were the type of things that as I was listening to Amanda Gorman reciting her poem, those are the things that really captured my attention, was the alliteration that was used and all of the just play on words, and the section where she's talking about a country committed to all cultures, to all colors, characters, and conditions of man. That particular one really, really caught my attention because of the repeating of the letter C, in there. Yeah.
Gotcha. I say, like, she did a wonderful job as far as like putting like everything together. You know what I mean? I mean, most people gonna call me a devil's advocate when I say this, but the portion about democracy, I cannot agree with that. Okay, because like it's when you look at democracy, okay, it's just like this right here. We know about this too well. Say somebody comes into town or whatever, and they shoot up this good man or this good woman. You know what I mean? Shoot them up. They go to jail. You know, now the sheriff is performing a Republican constitutional portion of law. Take him to jail, and at the same time too, whatever, like, okay, well, we're gonna set him up for trial, due process of law by constitutional rights. Now a mob of people come about. Hey, get him out of here. We're gonna hang him. So the sheriff's trying to explain, hey, no, he's due for a trial. You know what I'm talking about? This is the Republican constitutional, standard of law. He's due process, you know what I mean? He's going to go to trial. They harass him. No, 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 no. We want him out here right now. We're going to hang him. So now it becomes, okay, it's 100 against 1. All right, man, you're going to have to go. They finna hang anyway. You know what I'm talking about? So it's called a mobocracy now. You know what I mean? And like I say, our foreparents know too much about that. You know, everything that you spoke inside of it, like it was gorgeous, beautiful. It was beautiful. The mindset of it all was beautiful. You know what I'm talking about? But when you're dealing with politics and politicians, people that are ruled by everything else, like we talked about, what do we do in this country, man? Like we don't elect, like we don't select, we elect. They put people in front of us or whatever. We don't select them. They just, hey, here they go right here. You elect one, pick one. So we have to say so. And until that changes right there, you know what I mean? We will never have no say so, because we only elect and not select our own candidate. Like I said, for her to illustrate, what I'm talking about, like a better place, because that's what she illustrates. She's illustrating a better place, not the one that everybody's against everybody, not the one that one group oppresses another. Not, she was looking at through an equal illustration, which is beautiful. You know what I mean? Very beautiful. But in reality, will we get to see that? I think so.
I think that's what her poem is saying. It's speaking to a better future for America.
Right.
I think that's what she's saying.
Right.
Right. The part in the poem where I think that
it's not our country is not complete. It's not a complete.
It never was.
It's still developing. It's not perfect, and it's not complete. So she kind of put that in there as well too. And I guess speaking to what you're saying as well, right?
Yeah, because that's what she was saying. The other point that stood out to me was when she said a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished.
Unfinished, right.
I thought that was...
Yeah. It's just so much stuff up in there, man. Like I say, she's looking for a brighter future, which we all should dream about, which we all should vision. You know what I'm talking about? In the place that we're from and the place that we live, you know what I mean? We should all like vision for a better future, and a better destiny. You know what I'm talking about? And I will say this, and this is just straight fact, straight truth, or whatever. For us, as a Black nation, we don't even know where to start, because there's been so much stuff embedded. We got, like what they call Native Americans, like Columbus and Vespucci, and come over and be like, okay, they're redskin. No, they were Black. Our land got stolen and enslaved on our own land. You know what I mean? So when you think about like the centuries and years that has happened, it's like, well, this can't be constructed yet. You know what I mean? It's here. This stuff exists, but it can't even be constructed yet for us yet. It can't even be constructed because we constructed the whole nation, but we couldn't run it. How fair is that? So like now we got to go back into learning like, okay, well, what happened? How did I get here? You know what I'm talking about? They talking about from Africa and everything. I came over on the ship. Nah, you already here. Your four parents were already here. Some of us did, some of us is just like right here. You know what I mean? So we got to go back in all that right there. So like when you think about a country that's like broken and divided and unfinished, it ain't even started yet because we didn't start. You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of going back, like you said, in the beginning. But I think that's where the importancy, Patrick, where
Mhm.
this type of platform really
Mhm.
comes into play, where we can begin to speak and make sure we speak to the narrative that we
Mhm.
know that should be spoken, rather than
Right.
just waiting on them to speak the narrative for us.
Us. Right.
Then but the more platforms we have like this, then we can bring
Mhm.
that part out. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
just make sure people understand that there's a lot of things that needs to be addressed
Right.
from
Right.
the inception of U.S. up
Whew.
to this day. And this is how these
Right.
kinds of conversations and relationships really foster and bring those things out. And we just want to be part
That's
of
it.
that narrative of speaking to our audience or to our communities, right?
Oh yeah. And see, at the same time, you can spark something. You know, like I say, man, like I tell people all the time, man, hey, look, like I say a lot of stuff only because I've researched it and it's in fact, it's true. I'm like, hey, look, you know what? Don't take my word for it. You know, research it yourself, so you can
Mm-hmm.
find yourself, you know, within this stuff. You know what I'm talking about? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, and at the same time, tell me, you know, we really, when you talk about unity, you know, you talk about like, you know, okay, everybody's screaming like black unity, but we need to unite. We need to unite. How are we gonna unite when we so separate? We still got the crab in the bucket. You know, we still got the slave mentality, my friend. You know what I mean? Like when one gets something, we get jealous. Okay, nah, they weren't supposed to have that. I was supposed to have that myself. We still got the mentality. At the
Yeah.
same time, too, you know, when I, I'm not too young to remember when our neighborhoods was like a little like their own city. You know what I mean? Like you had somebody, you know, you had like gardens all over in people's backyards. You had businesses, grocery stores. You had the doctor's office. You had insurance companies. You know what I mean? You know, so it's kind of like that stuff is went away, and now you have like 12 churches on one block, but nobody with the economic, you know, prowess to, you know, shed, you know, like to trickle down with. You know what I'm talking about? So when we talk about black unity, we first gotta like get ourselves together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And like, and stop with the and stop with the, well, this mine over here. I got mine, you better get yours. No, man. When one get, everybody got.
Yeah. Like one of the things that we talked about once before is what happened at the Capitol. I think that definitely is the wake up call that you're speaking to for
Mm-hmm.
us as a people, to
Mm-hmm.
come together as one, because that's
Yeah.
definitely a wake up call for us as a Black culture. We have to definitely be about making sure that we come together as a unit, as a body of people, as a community, and work
Right.
together.
Right.
We don't have time to, fight against one another. Those days, it's over.
It's
And
over.
that was a
It's
great
over.
example
Mm-hmm.
of how we need to come together. Yeah,
Right. And you know what? Look at it. Black Wall Street before Wall Street.
exactly.
Right.
Like Wall Street. Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1920. These banks that our brothers owned over there, whatever, they were bailing out, they Texas farmers, and every other farmer was like, getting money from them to keep their farm up. Of course, they burned it down. It ain't never came back. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War II.
Mhm.
U.S. blow them up or whatever. Okay, you blew us up. Guess what these cats did? Okay, you know what? We finna send our kids to American University to learn everything that they know. Guess what's happening now? Japanese a lot of stock over here. So we like all we do is march. All we do is yell Black Lives Matter. All we do is, you know, We'll go to church and pray. It'll be all over. But we have never done what these other people have done. As far as like, okay, you know what you did this to me right here, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna send my kids over here. You know what I'm talking about, to learn this. Now, this country can't even touch them. Because now they got so much, you know, like business and stock vested over here. It's like, okay, what did they, okay, we can't even stop them now.
Yeah.
Finance, you know, learning finance.
Yeah. Even in technology, and that's, like I said, that's my background. The U.S. is not where it used to be in the level of the ladder in terms of hierarchies. Other countries are ahead of us, and so that's these are the kind of platforms that we need to speak to those things. And we make sure we bring our community along too, from an educational and a technological perspective as well too. So that's very, very important. So
yeah, because I mean,
Gina.
Go ahead,
And
Gina.
these are the type of topics that we're going to be bringing up over the next couple of weeks with all of the other guests that we're going to have on as well. So
yeah, please bring them. Yeah, please bring them, because I mean, like, it's needed. You know what I mean? And like I say, even like we, you know, thing is or whatever, we went through the same school systems. You know what I'm talking about? Public school, some of us went to private school, which is okay. Which is damn good. But public school, like, you know, we were taught to praise the oppressor, and we were taught, you know, that's why so many dropouts. You can't identify. And like you see George Washington, first president, this and this and that right there. Okay, where did I come from? Oh yeah, you in slavery. Black History Month. Oh yeah, you in slavery. You didn't know that? It's like, you know, I'm dropping out. And like, that was the problem, because of education.
About these, and we're going to be bringing on different different guests who are going to be addressing some of these over the next few weeks, the next few months. So yeah. But Patrick, I'm so glad to have had you on. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
And I know that this is not going to be it's not going to be the last time, because now that I know that you write music as well, definitely have to have you on, you know, sharing some of your music with us in addition.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I just want to make sure, I'm glad to have you on. I just want to make sure I close out and read our copyright disclaimer, because we brought on the PBS clip.
Right.
And we just, you know, the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of Copyrights Act 176, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships, research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit education and personal use. Tips the balance in favor of fair use. Yep. So just want to make sure we put that out there, that all copyright infringements intended, all copyrights belong to their respective owners here. That we say that as well too. So definitely, I enjoyed it, Patrick. Thank you. I mean, I think it's very fitting to bring you on, and you're definitely a role model. You're definitely a role model, brother. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for y'all to have me, and Almighty bless everybody. You and Almighty bless.
If I may end with this, I'm going to be continuing along the lines of what Miss Gorman mentioned about, you know, composing a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And mine would be, if we would open our hearts and commit to the healing of the world with compassion, connection, courage, commitment, creativity, collaboration, community, and contribution. And I'm so grateful for your contribution today to this episode, Patrick. So glad to have had you.
Oh yeah, I'm grateful to be on. Thank y'all.
My pleasure.
Thank y'all.
And I hope for those of you who've been watching, if you have any questions or comments, we're not necessarily seeing all of the comments here, but we will certainly respond as soon as we can, as we're able to see them once we're off the live stream. And if you are if you'd like to connect with Patrick, he is on Instagram at. Can you repeat that again for me, please?
You want to say where they can reach at again? Say where they can reach at again, Patrick.
All right, Black Ghost 9999 35. That's 4 9s and then 35. Black Ghost.
And that's on Instagram. And we
Yes.
look forward to your book. I'm going to keep at you about this book. Yes,
I know.
It needs to be, you know, the
I
world.
know.
The world.
The world is waiting for your book. Okay, Patrick.
Yes.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm gonna definitely be hitting the ground with it. So no doubt about that.
We're here to support you and encourage you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all. Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. All right.
And thank everyone who joined us today, whether you posted a comment, asked a question, or you just sat and watched quietly in the background. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, appreciate
like
y'all.
And share, like and share, thumbs up. We appreciate all of them. Thank you.
No doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah. Take care.